Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you all? I hope that you're fine. Inshallah, in this video, I'm going to read and explain the ideas of an article which is about the African Wildlife Foundation. It's about the African Wildlife Foundation. You can find it in your your activity book, which is on page 36. Okay, so please, all of you, open your books. Page 36, activity book, page 36, and take all the notes. Let's start with it. The text is about, or the article is about, the African Wildlife Foundation. What's the meaning of wildlife? What's the meaning of wildlife? Look at this picture. What does it show? It shows the wildlife in Africa. So what is wildlife? It's, for example, the animals, trees, or plants that live in certain circumstances or in a certain environment or in a certain place or area. Okay? So a group of animals and plants that live in a certain area or circumstances. Okay, اللي هي الحياة البرية. What about foundation? Foundation is an institution. What the meaning of institution? مؤسسة that is established from charity. Charity, which means اللي هي التبرعات. Okay? أو اللي هي مؤسسة خيرية. Okay, all of you? So we are going to talk about the African Wildlife Foundation. So before that, let's look at the outcomes of the lesson. You are going to scan an article for particular information. We are going to read and find some particular information. And then you have to produce written responses to analytical comprehension questions related to a text. What's the meaning of responses? ردود. Analytical comprehension questions like the critical thinking questions and so on. Okay? So now, before the lesson itself, here you have a word that you have to know about and to learn, which is conservation. Conservation, it's a noun, which means the protection of natural things such as animals, plants, forests, etc., to prevent them from being spoiled or destroyed. So their conservation is the protection, حماية, of natural things such as animals, plants, forests, to prevent them from being spoiled or destroyed. To prevent, what the meaning of prevent? منع. From being spoiled or destroyed هي من التدمير. منعها من التدمير. Okay? So conservation means what? اللي هي الحماية أو الحفظ على شيء معين أو الحفاظ على شيء معين. Okay? Now, let's read. I read it first at once and then analyze and explain the ideas in it. So please listen carefully. The African Wildlife Foundation, AWF, is a non-profit organization that works for the conservation of the communities, lands, and wildlife of Africa. It has many offices throughout Africa, and its projects aim at ensuring an everlasting future for the African people. The organization has been training hundreds of Africans in conservation and has been working closely with law officials to increase penalties on hunters, especially those who hunt endangered animals. AWF earns millions of dollars through funding, thanks to donors who appreciate the organization's selfless mission and contribution to the preservation of Earth's natural resources. So let's go back to the first paragraph. Again, it talks about what? The text is about the African Wildlife Foundation. Okay, and its abbreviation is AWF. What the meaning of abbreviation? اللي هي عندكم الاختصار. AWF is the abbreviation of the African Wildlife Foundation. Is a non-profit organization. Non-profit. What the meaning of non-profit? Do you remember what the meaning of non-profit? We have learned it before. It's for not profit, or for not for not earning any money. Sorry. Okay, it's not for money. What the meaning of not profit? Not for money or not for gaining money. Not for earning money. Okay, it's for what? It's for charity. يعني إنه it's for charity. It's a non-profit organization that works for the conservation of the communities, lands, and wildlife of Africa. So what is the main aim of the African Wildlife Foundation? Okay, what is the aim of the African Wildlife Foundation? First, it's a non-profit organization. It works for the conservation of communities, lands, and wildlife of Africa. Okay, so it is not for earning money. It's a charity that works for conservation of communities. What do you mean of communities? اللي هي المجتمعات. Lands and wildlife of Africa, especially where? In Africa. Okay? It has many offices throughout Africa, and its projects aim at ensuring an everlasting future for the African people. So, does it have offices all over Africa? Yes, it has many offices throughout Africa, and its projects aim at. Now, the projects of this African wildlife has an aim. What is the aim of these projects? Here we have another aim, but it's what? It's for the projects. It's the project's aim. Okay? What is it, what is that aim? The ensuring an everlasting future for the African people. Everlasting future اللي هي يا طالباتي اللي هو ايش عندكم؟ مستقبل مستدام أو مستقبل دائم. Okay? Ensuringly, to make sure to have an everlasting future for the African people. So again, what's the aim of the African Wildlife Foundation projects? The aim is what? Ensuring an everlasting future for the African people. Here we have a pronoun. It's referred to what? It refers to the African Wildlife Foundation. Okay, so it refers to the African Wildlife Foundation. What about this it also? It has many offices. It also refers to the African Wildlife Foundation. Okay, let's continue. The organization has been training hundreds of Africans in conservation and has been working closely with law officials to increase penalties on hunters, especially those who hunt endangered animals. So the organization, which organization that we are talking about? The organization that we are talking about is what? The African Wildlife Foundation. So what is the organization here that we are talking about? It's the African Wildlife Foundation. It has been training hundreds of African. What the meaning of training? يدربون hundreds of African in conservation. Okay, and has been working closely with law officials. What the meaning of law officials? اللي هم المسؤولين القانونيين. مسؤولين قانونيين. Okay, to increase penalties on hunters. Increase means what? اللي هي يزيد أو زيادة. Okay? To increase لازدياد. Penalties. Penalties means اللي هو يا أول عندكم اللي هي المخالفات. Penalties مخالفات. Okay? On hunters. Hunters, those people who hunt animals. صيادين. Especially those who hunt endangered animals. So which type of hunters that they are going to increase penalties on? What type of hunters that the law officials and the organization are working together to increase penalties on? They are those hunters who hunt endangered animals. And what the meaning of endangered? اللي هي الحيوانات التي في خطر أو خطر الانقراض. Okay? Okay يا أول. طيب, let's look here for an adverb. Who can tell me where's the adverb here? Here we have one, which is what? Closely. It's an adverb. What else? Yes, it's okay. It's especially. Especially is also an adverb. What else? Is there any other adverbs here? Well, adverbs with ly, no, we don't have. Okay, but yes, we have here another one. No, we don't have. So it's what? It's only closely and specially. Okay, what about adjectives? Do we have any adjectives here? One, yes, we have adjectives, of course. We have one, non-profit. This is an adjective. What else? We have also yes, everlasting. Yes, sure. Okay, this is another adjective. What else? African people. African is an adjective. Okay, what else? Do we have any other adjectives here? Endangered. Yes, the last one is endangered is an adjective. So we have two adverbs and 4 adjectives in this text. So let's move to the next paragraph and the last. AWF earns millions of dollars through funding thanks to donors who appreciate the organization's selfless mission and contribution to the preservation of Earth's natural resources. So they earn millions of dollars. Are these dollars for the people who are working in this organization? They take them for themselves? Or what? No, they of course use them to conserve the wildlife. So do you think that these millions of dollars are for people or for the conservation of people in Africa and the wildlife in Africa and so on? It's of course for what? For conserving or for the conservation of the wildlife and people in Africa. So how do they get that money? How do they earn or get that money? Through funding. What the meaning of funding? Funding اللي هو إيش تمويل. From what? From the donors. What the meaning of donors? اللي هم ممولين أو المتبرعين. Who appreciate the organization's selfless mission and contribution to the preservation of Earth's natural resources. So these donors, who refers to donors, who appreciate the organization's selfless mission. What the meaning of selfless mission؟ اللي هي مهمة غير أنانية. يعني for example, they are doing this not for themselves. No, they are doing these actions or these activities for the wildlife. They are doing these activities for the people of Africa, to conserve the nature in Africa, not for the organization's self. And contribution, مساهمة اللي هي joining, to the preservation of Earth's natural resources. So they also contribute to the preservation of Earth's resources. Preservation is the same meaning of conservation. So preservation has the same meaning of conservation, yes. So which sentence shows that AWF, okay, has selfless mission, okay, or do selfless missions to the Earth's natural resources? This is the sentence that it talks about. And again, it's AWF earns millions of dollars through funding thanks to donors who appreciate the organization's selfless mission and contribution to the preservation of Earth's natural resources. Now, if I ask you, what can you do to contribute to the preservation of Earth's natural resources? What can you do? Let's write the question here. What can you do to contribute, okay, to the preservation okay, of Earth's natural resources? What can you do to contribute to the preservation of Earth's natural resources? Well, I'll give you a hint that you may what? You may donate. What the meaning of donate? You may donate. Or I, if you want to answer by yourself, I want or I can donate. Donate أتبرع to a institute or to, for example, the organization, to an organization, sorry, that works to preserve the nature. Okay? And also you have a question with the same idea, okay, that what can you do to contribute to the preservation of Earth's natural resources? It's what, for example, I want or I can donate to the organization or to an organization that works to preserve that nature. I have answered this question for you. You can tell me other ideas, of course. So here you have the questions here. How do you think AWF trains the African people in conservation? Let's think about it. What does the AWF or the African Wildlife Foundation do to train the African people in conservation? For example, they what? They may spread the awareness of the importance of the wildlife. Right? What the meaning of spread the awareness? اللي هي نشر الوعي. About what? about the importance of the conservation of the wildlife? Well, this is my answer. What about you? How do you think AWF, or the African Wildlife Foundation, trains the African people in conservation? They might teach them in their organization about the importance of the wildlife, and so on. Number 2, how does the African Wildlife Foundation contribute to the preservation of Earth's natural resources? How do they contribute to the preservation? We have answered this question before. Okay, they can contribute by donating the money. What else? They can contribute by what? By working closely with law officials to increase penalties on hunters, especially those who hunt endangered animals. They train hundreds of Africans in conservation. So this is 1. Let's say this is 1. This is 2. Okay? And what else? They can get or donate to this foundation. And if you have written only these 2, they are correct. Number 3, in what way do you think you can help the African Wildlife Foundation in its mission? Well, I have just answered it before when I told you that the way that I can do, or the thing that I can do to contribute to the organization is what? Is by donations or by donating, right? Well, it's up to you. You can answer by yourselves. After you have answered these questions by yourself, please check the answers from here. Of course, number 1, it's your own answer. You have only number 2 and a suggested answer from number 3. Okay? This is the end of our lesson. Inshallah, in the next video or the next class, we are going to write about the conservation of wildlife. Thank you.